Hello, everybody. Going to give you all a minute to start to join the room as we kicked off our Ready, Set, Vaccinate Global Industrial webinar. So as you all join us here, again, if you've joined us before, my name is Joseph Dunne. I'm our Director of Sales Enablement here at Global Industrial. I have some great panelists that are going to be joining us today to walk through our Ready, Set, Vaccinate program and talk a little bit about some similarities we've seen in some other programs we've run that I hope can help folks who might be participating or potentially lifting vaccination sites as we start to look at the next phase of what's going on with COVID-19. And as well as I think we have some lessons learned that we've seen as companies have been coming back to work as we've gone through the rebound or we're going through the rebound that I think are very applicable for kind of the next phase going into 2021 that we'll share with you. Before we do that, a couple of ground rules before we introduce our panelists. So again, I'll be jumping in and out of a PowerPoint for you all just to share a couple images and tee up some of the questions that I will be asking our panelists. We do a round robin of questions. I have some questions specifically for each one of our panelists and then some for the group to kind of get a dialogue going. If you have questions, we have a website, we have an email that you can send your questions to so it's webinars@globalindustrial.com. If you are a Global Industrial Associate that is on the line, thank you very much for joining us. You all know how to get me. You can email me your questions directly. Let's make sure, if we do have a chance to answer any live in the chat today, we leave that open for our guests that are not Global Industrial Associates. I want to make sure that I don't miss anything in my notes for what to cover here. I think that sounds pretty good. Let me show you all our formal agenda on what we're going to be covering. Here's the flow of what we're going to go through today. I just want to make note that we're not going to dive into the vaccines themselves, right? We're not going to be giving any medical advice to anybody on the line here. We want to talk about some of the operations that are going to be a part of what's needed to, to really distribute, store, et cetera, the vaccine as we start to look at vaccines going live in the near future. So again, we're going to give you hopefully some thought leadership and some lessons learned from what's really our wheelhouse, which is the industrial supply side of it. We won't be diving into the individual vaccines or anything like that. And if you're on the line and you might not necessarily have a role in the upcoming vaccines, hang with us. I think there's other things that we're going to cover today that can really help any business as it relates to the continual rebound and what we can expect over the coming months for supply chains. That being said, that's a very long-winded setup, so thanks for sticking with me. What I want to do is I want to stop my share here and I want to bring in each of our panelists and give them a chance to introduce themselves. So Klaus Werner, if we don't mind, let's go with you first. So Klaus is our SVP, our Chief Marketing Officer. Do you mind saying hi to the group, sharing a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hello and good morning. My name is Klaus Werner. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Systemax and Global Industrial. I've been here for a little bit under a year and I'm very excited about spending an hour, half hour with you this morning and telling you a little bit about the different things that we have going on, not only when it comes to vaccination, but also from a pandemic management perspective.
Very good. Thank you, Klaus. If you've joined us before, Klaus and Mark might look familiar as they've participated in some of our other sessions. So Mark Dachel, who's our VP of Product Management, if you don't mind, let's go to you next.
Sure. I'm Mark Dachel. I've been with Global now for about 13 years, about 18 years in this space. And really, it's the product portfolio that is my focus, and I'm looking always to bring new and innovative products to the market to help our customers.
Very good. Thank you, Mark. And our newcomer to the webinars is Christopher Solomon, we'll call him our ringer, right? So we brought him in. He's our Vice President of Government Sales. Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for listening today and taking the time. I'm Chris Solomon. I'm the Vice President of Government Sales for Global Industrial, and I've been running Global's government programs division for just a little over 7 years. Again, thanks for taking the time to meet with all of us today.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much, all. I have one bit of context that I want to make sure we provide to everybody before we jump into asking each of you some questions here. What I'd like to do is, what we've been doing recently in our webinars is we make sure we give some nice setup for why we're hosting this, right? What's the thought process behind it? And we thought a great kickoff to the call is we have a quote from our CEO, Barry Litwin, from a recent article with Industrial Distribution, where on the screen you can see their website if you want to go read more from it. And I'll just read it to everybody real quick. I think it's a really good setup for why we thought this was the right topic to discuss as one of our webinars. So it's critical that everyone involved in the production, transfer, distribution, storage, and administration of the vaccine be prepared. It's going to be a significant effort that will require the support and cooperation of everyone. At Global Industrial, we are proud to be in a position to help our customers get every American and Canadian safely through the vaccination process. I think that's some of the roots of where we came up with, or the thoughts behind our Ready, Set, Vaccinate program, which, Klaus, if you don't mind, I'd like to go to you. Can you tell us a little bit about the thought process behind the program, kind of maybe elaborate on some of what Barry shared, and tell us a little bit about where this came from?
Yes, absolutely, and thank you, Joe. So Ready, Set, Vaccinate is kind of the third or fourth on a series of programs that we put together to help guide you, our customers, through what has been really unprecedented times, right? So we started with a program that was called Restore, Return, Rebound, which was about how do you restore your facility so that your employees and your customers can safely return, and then your business can rebound, right? So that was kind of the kickoff of our pandemic management construct, and it's evolved. We then moved forward and we did a back to school, home office type program, again, to guide our customers through what are the things that you need to think about to set up a homeschool, elementary homeschool. How can you give your children a semblance of normalcy with maybe a cubby to put their backpacks and a desk and whatever the case may be. And Ready, Set, Vaccinate was the next natural kind of program for us to put together to be able to provide our customers with some guidance of the things that you really need to think about, as we need to put 320 million Americans and Canadians through this vaccination process once or even twice. There are a lot of logistics and things that you need to think about. That the foundation is clearly the pandemic management program, but at the end of the day, pandemic management has been about social distancing and keeping people safe and trying to keep businesses as closed as possible while trying to keep the economy afloat. Vaccination is how do we get as many people quickly and efficiently through this process and safely. So let me kind of give you some examples, Joe. So you need to start thinking about parking lot. How are you going to keep your employees safe out in the parking lot so they don't get run over by a car? They're visible, right? So you want vests, you want cones, you want communication devices and things like that so that people can get informed as to kind of what's going on. So definitely Global Industrial can not only supply that, but we wanted to provide some thought leadership around that. How do you keep folks safe with hand sanitizer and face masks? Pandemic management protocols do not go away. You still want to keep people safe. You want to take their temperature. You want to make sure that you have the right PPE, whether it's the simple face masks or more the N95 masks, you want to have those available, right? As people are getting signed up and things like that, social distancing, you want to keep folks separated. You then want to make sure that you can keep, there's some privacy during the vaccination process, right? So what kind of partitions do you want to have so that as folks are getting vaccinated, there's a certain degree of privacy, but also you want to process as many people through the process as possible. You also want to think about how are you going to keep your supplies secure, right? We have all kinds of cabinets, everything from cabinets like these that you can lock some of the supplies to shelving for the things that are not as high risk. You want to think about your signage, right? So social distancing signage still applies throughout this process. So these are the things that you really need to think about. Global Industrial also supplies the things that you need to keep the vaccine at temperature. Again, we don't provide medical advice, but if you need dry ice machinery or freezers or the like, we can supply that. And we also can supply the things to keep things, shipping things cold. We have the cold containers and also we have the ice packs, right? So again, we're not providing the vaccine, we're not providing medical advice or advice on it, but if you need something to stay cold for a period of time, we can certainly supply that. So again, the idea is how can we we provide a one-stop shop. You know, you also need to think about disposal of biohazard waste at the end of the vaccination process. So we put together some thought leadership pieces around that. So you can go to globalindustrial.com/ready-set-vaccinate. You can just go and link off the website. And then you have access to all kinds of tools. We have a brochure that walks you through kind of what I just walked you through. But the idea is, how can we provide our customers with some thought leadership, with some guidance around that? And again, if you're interested, we also supply that merchandise so that you can buy it directly from us as well.
Very good. And you broke the way you reviewed everything. It kind of models the way that the website and the catalog are laid out, right? Kind of broken out by, we have them broken out by space with some recommendations.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's space, there's recommendations, there's link to product. We have some additional content and suggestions and tips. And as we learn more about this, this is kind of I'll call it kind of a living and breathing website, right? As we learn more, get additional information from the different manufacturers, we'll go ahead and provide that. We'll provide links to other third-party resources that may become available. At the end of the day, our goal is to provide thought leadership and provide our customers and potential customers and the community at large with the information that they need in order to keep their employees and their customers safe as we're navigating through, hopefully, the tail end of this pandemic.
Very good, very good. And we'll dive into those spaces a little bit more towards the tail end of our time here. I got a couple of questions. I kind of want to come back to our group and just review a little bit about additional thoughts on the outdoor space, parking lots, some things to consider inside. That sounds great. I have another question teed up, but I think you covered it a little bit, Klaus, on how does this program fit into our ongoing approach for pandemic management at Global Industrial? I think you covered a lot of that, but anything else you want to highlight as it relates to that?
No, I think to your point, I did cover it. Again, at the end of the day, we need to think about the pandemic management is going to be a muscle that we're going to need to continue to exercise probably through the majority of 2021. And even as different businesses start coming back, there's going to be a higher expectation, right? I think we've created a generation of germaphobes, for lack of a better word, right? So there's going to be this expectation of sanitation, right? So cleanliness and sanitation has always been important to folks, but now it's going to be a higher level of expectation. So I think that we are also prepared as we're thinking about the future is how do we support the community at large as we go through the tail end of the pandemic, making sure that we can continue to provide guidance, but also the bar has been raised. And what are the things that you need to think about as a business as you're truly thinking about a return to work? Like for instance, Global Industrial returned to work in the May-June timeframe, right? But reduced capacity, social distancing, A and B scheduling, a lot of partitions and things like that. There's going to be return to work 2.0. What is that going to look like? What do you need to think about? While you may not need to take these drastic measures, we still need to take some measures to make sure that folks feel safe enough to return to the workplace, and we're keeping customers and employees safe no matter what kind of business you're in.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Klaus. Let's do a slight gear shift, right? So I want to go to Chris. Chris, we have it set up in the agenda, and we talk a little bit about Ready, Set, Elect, right? Can you talk to us a little bit about what the Ready, Set, Elect program was and why you feel there's some similarities as it relates to potentially lifting a vaccination site or a pop-up site?
Thanks, Joe. Ready, Set, Elect was something that, again, in November of this year, we had a presidential election and we had to deal, like we do with the vaccination program, we had to deal with the sheer logistics and equipment needs to safely elect a president. And there are similarities in Ready, Set, Elect and Ready, Set, Vaccinate in that, again, you'll be looking at employees and volunteers who will have to be working with equipment that they may not have worked with previously and being able to train them. In this instance, for Ready, Set, Vaccinate, you'll be looking at both the storage and handling of the vaccine and the temperature requirements that go along with it. And then also from a crowd control standpoint, it'll be very similar to the election process in that, one, you'll be dealing with long lines of people that have to be socially distanced for safety purposes, while simultaneously looking at your parking lot and dealing with curbside services potentially, as well as stationary parking, and having all that logistics work simultaneously. So a definite need for signage, a definite need for crowd control in order to keep everyone safe and keep the lines moving.
It's that makes perfect sense on why we're talking about the similarities, right? It does seem like a very similar motion. Mark, if you don't mind, I'm hearing a lot of folks ordering similar things at the same time. Do we have any inventory concerns? Are we concerned about supply chain as it relates to these products?
I'll be honest and tell you that supply chain has been the most impacted part of the business for us and for most of our customers. With the pandemic, as it has rolled through the country, there have been ongoing waves of product that has seen spikes. I'm sure nobody will be surprised that medical refrigerators and freezers are a big product, line these days. There will be a supply constraint. So, if you think you need something, or you may need something, you need to get it on order sooner rather than later. If it's available today, it may not be available tomorrow. Many of our suppliers and manufacturers around the world have shut down parts of their standard business in order to manufacture those products that meet the needs of the people today, and tomorrow. So it's something that you may have to settle for a product or an item that is very similar or does similar function that is not your original choice. And that is a challenge in this market. One of the biggest things that we have found is that our teams have spent, they spend untold number of hours trying to source product for our customers, be it custom, be it special. We work with thousands of suppliers. We have millions of products, millions of units of product in our DCs, and we do everything we can to, get these products to our customers. But it is a severely constrained supply chain, and what we see as popular product today because of needs is going to change tomorrow. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, I think we've all experienced that on some level, right? I mean, for the folks on the line for your businesses, we've all experienced the stress of trying to. But just personally, we all had some. Our supply chains were impacted. Getting groceries for a while was tricky, right? There's a lot of stuff that we've all experienced where I think that makes a lot of sense. What I'm hearing is, as we start to think about what folks will need for this, we got to plan ahead, right? Yeah. So plan and then execute quickly, right? On what you need to make sure that plan is successful. Because I think a lot of other folks are going to come to that realization soon. And then to your point, Mark, that's where it starts to get a little constrained.
Yeah, one of the biggest things I think that you have to think about is what are products that are going to be needed by clinics and hospitals and anybody who's actually going to be doing the vaccination process? Are those products that you use in your business? If they are, you better be prepared to have an inventory today that's going to carry you through an extended period of time in 21. Think about it, plan for it, and start executing. There's going to be a point in time where it's going to be hard to get certain products, and as we've done all through this process, is we're going to do our best to find the product to offer to our customers. We've done an enormous amount of work all year to present product to our customers, and to be perfectly honest, it's been successful to help our customers. It really has. But it's a challenge, and you really need to know and understand your business and be prepared as to what that business is going to need, not just for the next month or two, but for an extended period of time, so that you're planning well in advance.
Very good. Yeah, agreed. And kudos to your team, just real quick, as we're on here, with what we've been able to bring in to supply to our customers to assist them through these trying times. It's been outstanding. So, I'll tip my invisible hat to the group. They've done a fabulous job.
Thank you very much.
So before we transition to talking a little more about space by space, Chris, I wanted to come back to you. Mm-hmm. As we look at the Ready, Set, Elect program, any pain points that stand out now that, we're a month removed, lessons learned that we think, again, could be similar lessons learned for those who are looking at the Ready, Set, Vaccinate program?
There are, Joe. Now that we are post-election a month and we've had a chance to speak with customers, we had asked what were the biggest challenges that they ran into in dealing with the sheer scale of an election. And now to put that into scale, it was a national program to elect a president. And now, although right now today we're talking about Canada and the US, we're now trying to vaccinate a planet. So it's even on a much larger scale, both from an urgency standpoint for product, because now we won't just be competing nationally for product, we're competing globally for product for our customers. But the points that were brought up over and over again, first was the challenge of quickly training employees and volunteers to use the new equipment that was necessary to elect. And again, as we spoke before, there's new equipment that has to be dealt with the vaccination process as well. Beyond that, clear and easy to understand signage and enough signage was a challenge for everyone. It needed to be easy to understand so that the lining up process, the queue process was simple for everyone involved. Also, you may be dealing with people who speak a number of different languages. You may need signage in a number of different languages to make it easy for everyone. Also managing the automotive traffic, both the curbside process, while again, simultaneously having easy access to stationary parking as well, posed a big logistics issue for them. For any of our customers that are in colder environments, they may have had to integrate a temporary shelter as part of the process. At least it looks like right now that the beginning of the vaccination process is going to happen for the winter months for North America. So they may have to plan as far as having temporary shelters, portable heating, and all the equipment that's going to need to go into these shelters in order to execute the vaccination. I guess the overall thought that came from all of our customers, the biggest challenge they had and what their biggest goal was giving everyone a sense that they were safe throughout the process, whether it be employees, volunteers, or participants, that they felt comfortable in a process they hadn't participated in before. And as you know, this year has been all about change, and sometimes people aren't great about change. So it was really important to all of our customers that they presented a process that was easy and comfortable.
Very good. Yeah, I for those who have participated or had a chance to, view our other webinars, the people element of all of the change we've gone through comes up rather frequently, Chris. I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm going to speak on behalf of our certified safety expert who says it all the time, Eric Ruscher, that it's absolutely about communicating the process, right? Making sure folks understand what's expected and everything's outlined, right? Communicate. So I appreciate that. I think that's some really good feedback. At this point, I want to do a little bit of a dive into each of the spaces included in the Ready, Set, Vaccinate program, because Chris, you alluded to a little bit of it and Klaus shared a little bit early on. So I want to quickly just show one slide of a PowerPoint. So I'm going to jump through real quick as we covered most of my questions. And I just want to show a little bit of just, I like the way the layout looks, right? I like some of the graphics on what we have included in the campaign. So I just want to pull it up here. So I want to just talk a little bit about what each of you believe folks should consider with a couple of different spaces. So let's start with the outdoor spaces and parking lots. And Klaus, if you don't mind, I'll come to you. So we're thinking about this as it relates to our customers and the just the world in general. What should folks be considering as it relates to moving more people in and out of those outdoor spaces?
Yes, absolutely. So it varies from one facility to the next. Some facilities are going to be doing this indoors, and some facilities are going to do this outdoors, right? A drive-through clinic type thing. So think of some of the images you saw from a COVID testing perspective. You need to have traffic signage. You need to have cones and the like. You need to probably have tents to keep people outside of the elements. Depending on the weather, if it's really cold, right, and you really want to have some outdoor heating equipment, and as we go into the spring and summer, some fans and some cooling equipment, right, because this is a process that is going to take months, not weeks. So think about all of that. How are you going to keep folks safe? Think of the sign up process. Think of the some of the things I've seen out there, for instance, is you get your vaccine in your car. If you do it in an outdoor environment, then you want to stage the patient, for lack of a better word, for a while and make sure they don't have any adverse effects before they can drive off. So you need to think of that whole process through and think what are the things that you need to be able to manage the volume and keep the patient and keep the medical staff safe throughout the process.
Very nice. Mark, I'll come to you with the same question if you don't mind. Any other thoughts on what to consider in those outdoor spaces, moving folks around?
I think there's some things to consider in outdoor that are across all applications. You're going to have staff that are working, and these are not going to be short hours. You're going to be working 14, 15, 20-hour days. Do you have comfort stations set up for those people? Do you have a place where they can rest and catch their breath? This is going to be, a lot of work. You need to be prepared for that. You need to be prepared for what happens with the queue. How many people can you process a day if you're running a clinic? Where do you draw the line? How do you tell those people that are not going to get processed that day that they have to come back tomorrow, and how do you manage that? People are going to show up that are prepared and have been following all of the guidelines with gloves and face masks, but some will show up without. Do you have enough disposable PPE in place there you can give to those individuals that are going to queue up, whether it be outdoor or indoor, so that they can safely interact with the staffing that you have in place to go ahead and service those customers? And at the end of the day, what are you doing with all your disposable product? You've got sharps that are going to be something that have to be considered, general waste. Do you have portable bathrooms set up? I mean, there's a lot of things logistically you have to think about that are not just tied to an individual location.
Yeah, thank you. I think that goes back to the plan, right? So it's plan for your capacity, to your point, whatever that may be, and then all those elements that go around that circle around it. I agree. That sounds really good. Chris, same question. Anything we missed? Anything else we want to consider?
Well, from an outdoor space, I think, again, because it looks like at very least the beginning of the vaccination program is going to happen during the winter months, that slip and fall both inside and outside is going to be an issue that they're really going to have to be careful with. They're going to have shovels and rock salt and spreaders, and inside they're going to have enough matting and making sure that floors are prepared so that you don't have slip and fall incidents with regards to all the people coming and going.
I think that speaks to really the scope of what's included here, and that's amazing. Before we had a chance to kind of have some early conversations on this. That's something that wouldn't have necessarily dawned on me, but you're gonna have all these people there, even if it's a snow day, right? I mean, folks are coming to you, rain, shine, snow, because this is an important thing. They're not going to just possibly reschedule for the next day. So being fully prepared for all those inclement conditions is a great bit of feedback. We have about 2 minutes left, so I want to just do a kind of broad question that I'd like each of you to answer. When we start to think about the indoor side of it, whether you have a clinic that you're shifting your focus a little bit, you're going to lift a clinic indoor, what do we think folks should consider as it relates to indoors, as part of this program? And Chris, I'll stay with you to start if you don't mind.
All right. Well, I think from an indoor space, some of the things to consider are, although many of these facilities will be ones that have had to manage lines before, they'll be considerably longer, I would imagine, this time, especially to begin with. So they're going to need considerably more stanchioning and thought process through how they're going to manage these lines. Will they be able to accommodate the handicapped? Will they have seating or be able to accommodate the elderly or injured? What about people bringing children in? Again, these are all going to be concepts they're going to have to think their way through with regards to interior spaces.
Thank you. And Klaus, same question.
Yes, thanks, Joe. From my perspective, what I will say is pandemic management protocols do not go away. In fact, this is the most important time. It would be a shame to get sick while you are already on the finish line, right? So make sure there's sufficient hand sanitizer. You're keeping people socially distanced. You're keeping separation and shields. So have the PPE readily available. This is not the time to put down our guard. Social distancing, cleaning your hands, covering your nose and mouth are important as we're going through this process to keep everybody safe.
Agreed. definitely agreed. And Mark, same question, close us out.
Look, the one thing I can really recommend here is that you have to have a plan. If you do not have a good plan and understanding whether you're hosting the clinic or something's being done on your facility and your property, or you just have a business that needs to run and there are products and supplies that you need in order to operate, you need a plan. It doesn't matter where you are in the chain, and you need to get it together and start to plan for it so that you are not shorthanded with the supplies you need. That is by far going to be the biggest challenge that the entire, all of North America and the world is going to face.
Right. Let me do a very quick summary, as I know we're at time. So first of all, Chris, Klaus, Mark, fabulous information. Thank you very much. I heard a lot of similarities on planning for a long approach and considering all of the possible elements that are included, right? Elements literally, as in outdoor elements, right? Folks moving through spaces, and that this doesn't mean that the pandemic management goes away. It actually means that there should be a heightened focus because you're going to be potentially putting more folks through your operations than you might have, at least in crunches of time. So I think it's really good information. Again, I thank you all for joining us. I want to just take a quick moment to speak on behalf of Global Industrial. For anybody on the line, we wish everyone a happy and safe holiday season, right? So for whatever anyone celebrates, we hope that it finds you well. And we thank everyone for joining us throughout the year for these webinars. I've learned a lot, right? Our panelists have shared some amazing information. So we'd like to thank you all again. And again, Chris, Klaus, Mark, thank you for your time today. And we'll talk to you all again soon.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Everybody stay safe out there.